Coming up in this episode of Behind the Sound.
My buddy Wob Canoe got into politics, man. They were digging up some old lyrics.
Yeah, well, we got a rapper. We got a native rapper that's a premier of Canada.
Yeah, man.
Shout out Wob Canoe, right? Shout out Wob Canoe, right?
Yeah,
and he can rap.
A good rapper.
Yeah. I wonder if he can do the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
If
go.
Josh Glass
Shout
can do
out
the
to
weather.
JOC.
It's going down, people gather around. Grab a mic, let's rap, it's behind the sound. It's going down, people gather around. Grab a mic, let's rap, it's behind the sound. 118 back in the building, baby. Yeah. It's 118 or 116, live on Behind the Sound. 4 MCs at 116, 25% Rellik, Butta, Plex than me. J Dad's up on the beat, 200% G. Veterans up in these streets, 50 and still spiffy. Lifted with no spliffy, lyrically so gifted. Seriously won't get me unless you with no Jeezy. Reppin' for my city since Reed Bar and Cristal. I'm caliente, so hot with this style. Just for me, gente, lit on and pescado. Hello, hello, and bistec. Respect this, eat boom boom like you for breakfast. Boom boom back, this is a new rap and you rap. New wave hip hop, a little bit of doo-wop and you clap. Spit this, a little bit of Foo Schnicks and Wu-Tang. Too fast, nobody rap like Tupac of this gang. Catch my breath, I'm perspiring. Turn lukewarm to hot, nobody fucking retiring.
118,
Yeah.
back in the building. Yo, I represent the north side, homie to the fullest. I don't have to sit here and bullshit about bullets, no triggers to pull it. Right here and now, I'ma talk about the proud north side, say it loud. We from E-Town, that's about as north as it gets. We got day jobs and rap just to pay off our debts. It ain't easy, believe me, I just spent 10 years dropping track after track for nobody to hear. I can feel it getting near after such a long climb, fame and fortune. All I think is fuck about time. See, I always knew I had it, I just hadn't achieved any attention from my city. But the moment you leave, they say we love you, Plex. We got love for the Ave. By the way, we miss you, man. When you're coming back, my heart's in my city, that I'll never forget. No matter where the fuck I am, it's just like I
Well,
never
everybody
left.
still calls me Butter, not Brandon Brown. Where the avenue bend around, that north side of town. Where you bound to hear the sound of that boom boom bap. They grew up on gangster rap, kids sell crack. I took a different path, decided to rap. Even got a little dab, had to leave, but I'm back. Got a clear view from Queen Street West. Now I'm back for a rest of my bones and flesh. And yes, you can find me 6 a.m. lounging, north side, subsidized, single mother housing. 1,000 days, 1,000 dirtier nights. Every single one of them, we did what we like. Now I might take flight and reach new heights just cause I like this mic. But I'll never lose sight that I write these songs to right my wrongs. And if I'm going somewhere, you're coming along.
Hey, where the party at? The party's in the northeast, where we say motherfuck you, your crew, and the police. Hip hop, no auto-tuning, saying in my bridge. Who you think this is? I got a title to uplift. From Evergreen to Stadium, shit stay real. I'm representing Cromdale, Clairview, and A-Field, so stay still. Come correct the moving targets. It ain't smart, kid. You wanna dance? Let's get it started. Let's take it back to 87, age 11 on the scene. Too young to think of cream, but old enough to dream. Wanted a piece of the pie. Some respect on the side, because I knew I loved this game. Wasn't alone for no free ride, but how's this kid gon' get respect with no cash to collect? No dookie gold chains around his neck. Wait a sec, then a light bulb and hit above my head. Not the life of crime, I'ma write rhymes instead. But back in those days, like Ice-T, the rhymes didn't pay though. Now it puts the food on the table, financial stable. Got the band back together, boys, sound like a dream. Tell the world, Rellik, Plex, and Butta back on 118. Woo.
We're north of the river, baby.
Hey, let's go, baby.
That was good? That was
Let's
good?
go,
Okay,
baby.
that was good.
Let's go, let's go.
Behind the sound.
Yo, what is going on? Welcome to this episode of Behind the Sound. I know that I always say that I'm excited, but I am really super fucking excited for this episode. A few cats that have come on the show already. We always end up talking about the OGs. And when you talk about OGs in hip hop in this city, you have to talk about 118. Not only are they one of the dopest groups from back in the day and still doing things today, they have a real special, emotional, deep connection to me and my music career early on that I cannot begin to explain, but I hopefully will be able to describe that a little bit as we get into the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Behind the Sound 118. How you doing, fellas?
What's up?
That was
Let's
a beautiful
let's
intro.
go.
Beautiful intro, man. I felt a little misty off that.
I appreciate you guys. Introduce yourselves quickly. Give us your name and just a little bit about who you are in the group.
My name is Plex. I'm one of the founding members of the group. You know, we spent the last 30 years still working together, working on stuff. But yeah, it was basically 30 years ago that we created a group called 118.
Unreal.
One of our biggest shows was opening for Run DMC, and I think that's kind of what set the path for us after that.
Yeah. I'm Rellik, the other co-founder. Me and Plex kind of had some stuff going on just before Won18, and then when we formed Won18, we knew it was going to be great with the, there's a few members that aren't here too. But yeah, I've been still doing it, and good to be back together again for an afternoon.
I'm Brandon Brown, or Butta, as I may more commonly be known from back in the day. I met these guys. I was just an only child writing rhymes by myself, and then I through the north side working with what was her name again?
Tanya.
Yeah, Tanya, one of his girlfriends, and I was bagging groceries, and she was a cashier, and she's like, yeah, my boyfriend raps. Like, yeah, sure, he raps. And then she gave me a tape, and he was good, and I heard him and Billy, and that's kind of when I first started to hear. It's funny to think about that too, like pre-internet, you know what I mean? You would just find it, you had to, it was word of mouth.
It was a tape.
I was bagging groceries and somebody gave me a tape.
100%.
And then I was lucky enough, Billy, I think, was the first one and recorded the two first songs. Pendulum Theory was one of them, the one you just mentioned.
Yeah, we recorded one out at Rex Small Boys for
I forgot about that. Shout out Rex.
Yeah, shout out Rex Small Boy. But and then it bounced around though. It's bounced around so many different places. The Dungeon on Yellowhead Trail, Corey Johnson's old studios before that at Amtech. That's when it would have
Backstreet and Amtech.
Backstreet and Amtech, right? That was like early 90s.
But I was even making beats at Deadhead's place, remember?
Yeah, in the basement.
So we were always transitioning from one place to the next. Whenever I guess rent wasn't paid, we'd have to move from one spot to the next.
Get the next spot.
Gear. Let's get the gear out of here.
I remember still having the studio at my mom's place when we in the bedroom.
Four-track
cassette. Yeah.
So my first taste was The Dungeon, and I don't even know how I heard about you, Bill, but and I hadn't even heard of Won18 yet. We were in school. We were like rapping and singing in the stairwells. Me, Anthony, Jamie, the original members.
You guys all went to Shep, right?
Of Dark Sun Tribe. No, it was the U of A. I didn't know those guys in high school. They knew each other through soccer already. Okay. But we met at the U of A. And so we started like, smoking weed, singing and rapping in the stairwells all fucking day, never going to class. And somebody asked us to do a show. We're like, okay. We had no beats, no nothing. Somebody gave us your name. We went to the Dungeon. You lit us up with like fucking 3 beats that night.
Yeah. I remember meeting you guys.
Yeah, we dropped them that night. Didn't record anything, but we made the beats together. So you gave me that first taste of like, and you were really good at asking us what we wanted. It wasn't the fucking Rellik show. You know what I mean? And a good producer is able to do that. You're able to tap into the artist that's in front of you. Very young, had no game, knew nothing about nothing. And you're like, yo, do you like this? I played piano. I had a decent musical ear. And you would ask me questions about pitch and stuff. And you would teach me how was this 2 cents sharp, 2 cents fat? And I would like kind of give you my feedback on it and you change it. So I had that very first experience playing music, and I had written music myself, but never dropping it in a studio like that, a professional studio with you. And I'm glad I get to sit here 3 decades later and have the opportunity to thank you for that, man, because you put us on a path for Dark Sun Tribe that we started releasing records. I eventually built my own studio. We're sitting in the 4th studio that I've built now. And like you have real deep roots and connections to that story of mine, man. So like, and who knows how many other stories like that out of the Dungeon.
I appreciate that. I've always looked at mentoring as a big part of who I was, even back then, right? I like teaching people. I'm kind of a good teacher too, right?
I agree. I think because it started like that with me coming to Vic.
Yeah.
And then even with Rex
and
Tom.
I even taught, even the guys from War Party and like all even sorts
Touch.
of Touch. Yeah, we'd like, I was always just
you were a go-to for many years.
Yeah, and I was kind of like the first guy to like have that bit of producer studio knowledge, making beats and like sequencing, things like that. Right.
Pre-YouTube.
Yeah, this is
right. You can't like
search. Speaking of pre-internet, this is not when anybody can make a beat. And this is why when you find somebody, it's the same thing for me as a songwriter, but not being able to just put together a program at home and start making beats in my bedroom, which this generation is lucky to be able to do.
100%. Our first sequencer was before hard disk recording.
Too. What's that?
Our first sequencer was Cubase before there was hard disk recording. It was on an Atari computer, black and white, that would sync to the sampler through MIDI. And Touch was able to use it. You started using it at Corey's studio.
I think Touch still using stuff like that.
Yeah, Touch still has all that old gear, right? Yeah, he's got all the old retro gear. But yeah, it was, you know, it was a different time. And then I remember when hard disk recording came out at the Dungeon, we had already had the Dungeon. It was shortly after where you guys came in.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, wow, this is like, you can see your waves on the screen and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But when you guys came in, it was different because I was used to working with mostly rappers, right? Besides Lace, Drew, and shout out Lace.
Shout out to Lace.
And you three guys came in. And I remember Doug, because we were still running the Dungeon together.
Yeah.
And you guys came in and I was like, oh, this is brand new. And I was like, where are these guys from? And one was from the south side, one was from the north side.
Yeah.
And you guys just had this like flavor already, right? And I was like, oh, this is dope. I'll make a beat, right? You know, I'll make you a couple beats, right?
You were always scouting people to work with, though.
Yeah. It's some of my best work ever, even to this date, 30 years later, has been collaborative work with whether it was with you guys or Nathan Cunningham or whoever, right?
And for young, no, I did end up, like, I'm part of 118, but like I was in the same position when I first met these guys, and that's how I hooked up with them.
Yeah.
I then moved on to make beats with you, and we had a real connection with that. But again, I was really excited to just have access to beats. It's a game changer for somebody who's rapping in stairwells or just writing shit down and doing it at host parties. Another thing too is Tanner too.
Yeah, Spade.
Shout out Spade.
Yeah.
He was on the north side again, this organic culture of like, I wrote my first rap, then I went and I freestyled a little bit and I had a little bit of freestyle rhythm. And then people were like, well, you gotta battle fucking Spade and this and that. And I never ended up doing that. But again, word of mouth. And then I meet you and
because it was Rellik and Spade just before 118 when
it was me and Big Bill
and
FBI
and Plex and Big Bill, and then
really?
That's right when 118 became 118, and me and Doug
like
had
Tanner Lane we're talking about, right?
Yeah. And we had started doing shows. Me and Doug started doing some like native conference type shows and like festivals and stuff like that. And then we were the
R.I.P.
Redmond and Progress, R.I.P.
We were and Victims.
And then Victims.
But that was with Sean Joyner first.
And then with DJ Instigate, Sean
was your
Joyner.
name of that group again?
Shout out to Sean, baby.
Yeah. So and then that was about 94, 95. And then as you kind of got coming in, we did that our first collaborative project album was that Return to Atlantis album, right?
Yeah.
So what studio did you do that in?
Mostly the Dungeon?
Well, it was like I said, it was transitional. Like we were bouncing around
because we were bouncing around a bit. Yeah.
But Corey Johnson was like who opened the door first for us because we did something through National Film Board, which paid for a big block of studio time.
Yeah.
And we rushed to get their stuff done so that we had all that leftover studio time, and all that leftover studio time is what led to.
We were in high school. Like I remember because me and you in touch. I don't know if Butta had come along yet, but we'd go from school and then go to Corey's studio because he'd give us the nighttime chunk slot from like 11 o'clock to like 7 o'clock in the morning for like dirt cheap, like $40, $50 back then, right? For the whole night. So we would go and just like bang out whatever.
Well, even before that, we were looping beats on the Digicart because Big Billy
that
had
was
the
in
show
CJSR
on CJSR.
days.
That was like the beats we were using. Like we had the freestyle session at like 3 in the morning.
The CJSR when we hosted the show, right?
Sometimes we'd find just a little sample and make a beat out of that, you know?
Yeah, we used to just loop them in the studio. They had a looping thing, and then we would layer it with I would layer it with a 2-track recorder to add another sample. And then I would do that again to add a third sample, and then I would arrange those, and that's how we would make beats, was with this little one looper machine that CJSR had.
So how would you guys describe making music at that time versus now? Like you're talking about 2 tracks at a time, lacing them over again and over again, and all these different analog ways of recording. And now, we can start with 100 digital channels of whatever we want, whatever instrument we want. Take me back to, 1995 when you're talking, whatever year that was, making a record like that to still making a record today. What do you feel are the biggest differences, and what is it about that time that just makes that sound irreplaceable?
Well, in those times, it was pre-internet too, for starters. So, and not everybody had a studio because not everybody, it wasn't affordable. Home recording wasn't as affordable as it is now. And if you went to a studio like our studio, or there wasn't many other, we were one of the first hip hop studios, I like to think.
Well, Smash Band started.
And Smash had started over around the same time. So shout out Smash Bands too. But
that was years after. That was,
I think it was a
quite
couple years after.
It was years after.
Yeah.
Still, I would say that
because we were running a studio for probably 5 you know, for Dark Sun stuff, 5 or 6 years. Well, maybe not that long.
But Stress
maybe
was
3,
making
4
beats
years.
for many years.
Yeah.
So, but back then, not everybody rapped and not everybody did music. And I think this is the same thing that goes for all music. And that's why it's so watered down now. And you have to really look to find what's really good, is because everybody can record now.
Yes.
Whereas before you had to have a little bit of money to back you.
Right.
And generally, if you weren't that good at it,
you didn't get a shot.
You
That's
didn't
a good
pursue
point.
it, right?
That's a good point.
I think the shows kept us in it. We were like the opening act for everybody that came through for several years. And I think that's what
there was a good run there.
But even when you're youthful, you have like more hunger. You know, like I have access to recording anytime I want. I have musicians and the Rolodex, but I just at the same time I don't feel that same hunger or passion that I had when I was young.
Sure, it's kind of a young man's game.
We were fine. We were taking
right?
the bus, like hour-long bus rides across the city to do stuff. Right?
100%.
To do a show for free, to be at the radio station, get trapped there until 8 in the morning, catch a bus home. But that was basically how it
Miss
went.
the last bus and have to figure it out and walk from the south side to the north side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out Instigate again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ooh, I remember
us.
that time. He ditched us one time. Oh,
yeah. Oh, no.
There was a time me and Big Bill walked all the way from Instigates. We got
30 years. He's like, he's not going to let that go.
Instigate dissed us once too. And we will end up walking from Bears Paw, which was at that time the edge of the city almost, all the way back to the river. And that's when the sun had come up and the buses started running.
So when we talk about only having a few studios at the time, how does Corey come into the picture? Was he friends with you guys? Because it sounded like he had invested in a ton of gear at the dungeon, and there were a few studios, a few iterations of that studio along the way.
The original studio was Backstreet.
Yeah, he had his own studio.
It was
so he had
professional
Backstreet
recording studio. Like they had,
and then Amtech, he renamed it, and he had Amtech. And
he
were like,
he builds them from scratch though. Like he gets in there, puts the wood.
Oh
on,
yeah,
I remember that.
He's very good at,
I remember that. You were making beats, and he's running around fixing shit at the dungeon all the time.
So he had that studio, and then we kind of just still had like little beat making studios at the house and stuff like that. And we had one at, like he said, where Doug lived. We had a place where we used to make beats on the north side, wherever Doug lived, and we had our individual little bedroom studios just to make beats. But Corey at one point lost the studio. He got screwed over by a dude named
business partner who's supposed to come
Kelly
in and
something or other. He got screwed over, and that's when we kind of just took Corey with us.
Let's just pool our gear together.
And we pulled our gear together. Well, he got screwed over pretty good for the gear too. And then we brought him to the dungeon on Yellowhead Trail. Oh no, first at Shaw Cable or something.
No, it was Access Network.
Or Access Network building.
Yeah. Access Network.
And then we moved to that space on Yellowhead Trail that we were there forever. And that was like, there was some pretty...
it was a roller coaster.
Yeah, those are pretty good times though. There was a lot of good music that came out of it.
A lot of good songs.
I think a lot of that first Atlantis tape came out of the dungeon and the beats out of the studios or whatever, the host studios.
How did you at that time too, though, speaking of the tape, because I remember that was my first time. And again, these guys that work this all night stuff, I was very lucky enough, and you guys gave me a great opportunity.
We did a couple demo tapes. Remember we did those little single demo
No, but I mean,
tapes
like, what did you guys do?
Your songs?
Yeah, it was the first 2 songs I ever had released, which was like fucking so cool.
Pendulum
like the tape,
Theory,
the tapes,
Pendulum
Theory and something else.
And
I can't remember.
what was the other one called? I can't remember.
Look into your future.
Look into mine.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, the opportunity, but again, too, like you saying too, is you kind of had to earn the opportunity. Like he saw you guys, he saw me, and it was like a real stamp of approval and pride.
100%.
That like, and again, like I guess you guys are more spread around the city, but like even in the Northeast side, because I'm more of a Clairview guy. And again, we didn't go directly to school with each other until later on. And
we were at East Glen together.
Yeah, and then getting that opportunity to have Billy be like, yeah, come up my house and record something. Like, yeah, man. Because I was also rapping with like OD and shit, because that's when I started was OD.
I think it's a good thing that those first two songs were good. Because if they weren't, we might not be sitting
I might have
today.
met
That's just
OD
it.
through you. I think I met OD
probably
through
too,
you.
because I forgot. And again,
I
shout out
knew
OD
through Justin Crooks.
Because
Kyrie
OD did a lot.
Crooks.
OD did a lot
Yeah.
too for this crew too. But yeah, Owen and I were closer friends. Me and OD were closer friends, and we used to swing a microphone over top of in his basement in his mom's house and put on Too Short instrumentals, because we loved Too Short. Me and OD connected on liking old school music. He hopped in my car once. He was friends with Carrie, and he hopped in my car and I was playing Marvin Gaye. He's like, "Who the fuck is this guy playing Marvin Gaye in his fucking car?"
OD had a couple verses. OD used to rap too, right?
Yeah.
And then he even wanted to get into making beats at one time. So I still remember he's like, "Bill, can you show me where to start?" And then we found on there wasn't even Kijiji back then in the what do you call it, the classifieds or whatever, the old Auto Trader or whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
We found him an S900 or an S950, and he kind of learned to use that. And then he was even on the was he on both records? I think he was. Did he?
He was on.
Yeah, he's on a couple.
Is he on Dirty Boulevard?
Was it Dirty Boulevard? Yeah, he's on Dirty Boulevard.
He's on Dirty Boulevard on one verse.
He's
I
on
think.
the one with Max. Max is on one, right?
Oh yeah, Max is on.
Oh, was that
one.
the tape? That was the tape.
No, I
That's
don't
the
think
one
Max
with the little
was
B-boy on the
album,
tape.
though, yeah.
I get so
That's
confused.
Return to Atlantis.
Yeah, and then there was a couple little cassette tapes that are still floating around there, just because you used to just make your own cassettes.
Yeah,
right. That's how you shop.
Sorry, that was my question. So what did you guys do? You guys just did you go somewhere like you would get CDs printed and have them done?
I remember we had one of the first CD burners because you bought it.
Yeah, I had a CD burner, but there
was a couple places in town
pressed. We had a show in Winnipeg. So I had the money for the cassettes.
I think I remember this.
And then I didn't pay. We actually, Marty Casper lent us the money, and I was supposed to pay the guy. And then we went to Winnipeg. I didn't pay the guy. I think I probably snorted.
We left in the morning.
Yeah,
we left in the morning, and I had the money in a brown paper bag in the drawer with the Bible and the magazine or whatever that was in there, and we forgot it. We left in a hurry and forgot it. And we called there, and
I went back 10 minutes later. That cleaning lady already took the rest of the day off.
And we didn't. We
didn't pay. We still to this day.
It was the Pan Am Games.
I don't remember.
It was the Pan Am Games.
Who you are? Who made those tapes for us? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
30 years or how long has it been? 25 years.
You had to send that shit away. I don't know if there was any. Was that local?
No, it was a local.
Somebody
it was a local
who?
guy.
Yeah, there was dudes that did it. There was dudes that did it local.
But there was another one. I can't remember the name.
There couldn't be many of them though.
No. Oh no, I went through Winnipeg again for the
going to a couple different
Dirty
duplicator
Boulevard
guys. I just over the years I just had like the machine, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
NATO was even rebooting that.
I remember that. Yeah, I did a run with him for some stuff, for some CDs. I remember that. But it's crazy how important, like what you're saying, that mentorship and networking was back then. It's still important now, but to the point where, like, if I couldn't fix something in Cubase, I had to ask you. Like, I had Bill, how the fuck?
I was always the Cubase
you
guy,
were
right?
Like, yo, and you taught me how to like get the cracked version of like I never bought Cubase for decades, man.
Yeah.
I think this is the first Cubase I've actually purchased because it got annoying to like get through the cracks and stuff.
I'm still using the last solid crack of Cubase.
Let's go!
Cubase 5.1, boy.
Honestly, bro, some of those last cracks were better than the. I find a lot of the new things annoying.
You're not using Cubase anymore, are you?
I am, yeah.
So am I.
Oh, actually, no, I'm not. I
can't do 64-bit
transition to
plugins.
Logic Pro.
Okay, so I'm Cubase 13 now, so I'm all caught up.
It was the last 32-bit. So I can't do 64-bit plugins, so I got to try bridge them down and hope my system handles it, right?
Let's go.
Ghetto.
So listen, you all are here in town. This will air and be released after the shows that you're here in town for right now. Billy, you're still here. You two are out in the GTA.
Yeah.
So what is it like to be reunited back? And I don't think you're performing as 118. You're doing your own separate shows, right?
We might get a song or two out though.
Okay, dope.
Yeah.
So being back here at arguably one of the bigger stages when it comes to Edmonton, as far as K-Days go, coming out here and rocking in the Indigenous Expo Center, that area.
Indigenous experience at the Edmonton Expo Center. Yeah.
So what is that like to be back and rocking in full effect like that?
It's a complete coincidence that we're back to back.
It was a
fluke. On the bill.
Oh, really?
They didn't even know we knew each other. And when I looked at the schedule,
there's a lot of young people, they don't know about the history of 118.
When I looked at the schedule, I'm like, they have me and Doug on this, not only on the same day, but we're back to back.
That's crazy. So
yeah. It was like almost meant to be, right?
Yeah.
And me, I still perform occasionally. Like I usually set the ticket price high so that it's if they really want me, they'll pay it.
Yeah.
If they don't, I'm not. I have other things to do anyway.
100%. I do my videos the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bud has been instrumental in just making me feel comfortable up there, you know. Sometimes, especially at this age, it's harder to remember lyrics sometimes, especially on the older songs that people like. And Bud is definitely, and he's got a lot.
And it's a lot of fun for me because I'm not as active in the music. God, it used to be a really part of my everyday. And then I got into stand-up comedy. I did for a couple of years. I kind of messed around with,
crazy,
and got away from it. And then,
dance monkey. Yeah,
and then bring out the chair from the. So I kind of got away from it, and it's great with Doug because a lot of songs back in the day, Doug and I collaborated on, and I did a lot of choruses for him and stuff. And I'm for lack of a better term, lazy.
Yeah.
So I
good
mean,
term
like, yeah, like Billy's a hustler.
Well, not only that, when you do record a song,
I'll say humbly that I'm quite talented.
When you
I don't
do-
take that and hustle for
when
it.
you do
talented,
record a song, you sit with it long enough, you want to recreate that whole song. So there's nothing's ever done with.
Yeah,
with
that's another
Butta.
thing. I never
Yeah,
finished
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
like
the great never
perfectionist.
was in
Sure.
118. Maybe we should address
It's
that
like, hey,
briefly.
let's just retool this.
Your
one.
songs have always been so good
I
because
had
they
a-
tell us they've always told a story and they have
Oh,
a
he's a good
transition
storyteller,
through
yeah.
them.
I've always
right?
been
Like
good
all
on.
of them.
I've always enjoyed doing concepts and song concepts, which
Yeah.
was a lot of fun.
I think because we were very East Coast, but you were like the guy in
Yeah,
the group that
that's
was like
another
West
thing, too.
Coast.
That's
Yeah,
good.
you
I had
got
a
it.
West
Me too,
Coast
on the West
baby.
Coast.
Yeah,
Me
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Quit
I
sleeping
had
on the
a
West Coast.
influence, and I came. Yeah, and these guys were East Coast influenced, and but you know, like West Coast influence, like back in the day, West Coast, like you know, good West Coast. But yeah, the collaborations worked out well. Doug and I really connected early on to on a couple of things, and I think that's why we still maintain. Of course, our friendship too. I've neglected a lot of friendships at this age and things like that, and we've always stayed connected and creatively. And I really appreciate him not just involving me in the opportunity to play Weekend Rockstar every couple times a year, which I really enjoy. It's nice to knock the dust off. Even the honor to do your cipher today. It's
killed
nice
it.
to. It's
You
nice
all
to,
killed it.
It's just nice to flex the muscle again and have some fun with it. So when I do a show with him, I get to rehearse and practice, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then you listen to some of our old catalog, which I've been doing since
Yeah.
I didn't know what we were going to be doing this week, and I was like, damn, 20-year-old Brandon, you sure could.
Yeah.
You sure could do some stuff, and not to, you know, like Billy touched on earlier, not to take away from the opportunity that younger artists have to make stuff in their bedroom, but it is kind of like just anybody can make a song.
Yeah.
Which has it's a double-edged sword, of course, because then everybody's making a fucking song.
Right.
And back in the day, you had to be at a party. You had to have 2 good songs on a tape. So people were
Yeah.
like, hey,
No,
this
we
guy's-
were in the back alley just blazing a joint, and we ran into somebody who made beats and rapped.
Yeah.
Like we were there for 4 minutes.
Always.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's been for me. I'm really excited for it because I do play a lot with my band because then I do the whole fusion thing with the full band, right? And every now and then I don't really do hip hop shows anymore where I'm just straight rapping.
Right.
So it's kind of the fusion thing. We do hip hop songs in our set.
You're like Everlast.
A little bit, yeah. And then we do hip hop songs. So we'll do like thank you at the end. We do a couple of the Rellik ones, money, yada yada. But it isn't. It's not like I'm up there kind of just spitting. So it's nice to like just come and spit some. And a lot of people don't know, but the verses are old verses, right? Like,
Well, you were rocking a session with us, and it was probably 5 or 6 sessions in already. And I thought you were just making our beats, and then I heard you rap for the first time.
that verse was
I like,
probably before I met you.
What?
That verse was probably before we met.
That's
I would
the verse
think.
you just dropped in the booth. That verse is fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that verse is fire.
I kind of flipped the end.
well.
I kind of flipped the end of it just with the 118 back line, but you know what I mean. It's back. It's been great because these guys, of course, moved to Toronto roughly around the same time, but a couple years later, right? But when Plex moved, my heart was broken. Just kidding. And it was different, right? Because I had to do something different. And so I rapped for a while with me and Lace, and me and Lace did shows for like years, and then I kind of just started to do this band thing. So it's nice. Every now and then Plex will bring me out too over the last like 10 years while he's been there a few times to do shows with him too, with Butta. We got together. That was probably at least 10 years ago.
we've done a few even across the country. We've done some stuff for APTN.
So it's always a treat just for everybody to be on the same.
And it's different for you, yeah, because this guy is like, what do you have, 2 shows tomorrow?
2 shows.
And then we're doing like, these are the only 2 shows I'll do over 6 months.
Yeah.
Unless you have something else you want to tell me about today.
Yeah.
Keep
Unless
raising
you're
the
holding
ticket
out.
price.
Plex. Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. But again, he's a hustler. It's like I said earlier, I'm talented but lazy. He's talented and he's a hustler, and that's a good good combination.
Yeah,
you seem like you'd be familiar with that type of combination.
I try, man. Thank you. But yeah, Rellik is super active. I mean, if you don't already know, he's got a radio show. He's doing tons of shows around town, all over Western Canada. Also, the winner of one season, we used to run My United Way Voice, a rapping and singing contest with United Way, where you had to write a song about poverty. Both of you were involved with that. I think you produced that, right?
Yeah, co-produced with this guy.
Co-produced.
Yeah, the
okay.
beat was yours, and you did the video too.
Yeah, I did the video.
That's right. Yeah,
That was
the
us
original video for
ripping
the
that together.
submission.
These guys shot it with Netley, and Netley didn't focus the camera, so it was a little out of focus.
Right.
So I
So
was
you
like,
animated it.
I was like, so
You
what I
had to
could do is I
animate
could
it.
use this
Yeah.
animation effect and just do it frame by frame, and that's how we pulled that
But
together.
that song was actually kind of like a big. It was one of the big milestones for me.
Where did you record that? You recorded at the library or something like that.
Yeah, we went to the. We
Yeah.
even went out of our way to do a green screen at the library.
I was
That's
like, you
what
just
Plex
get me
wanted.
something with green screen and we'll be good. Shoot it at this frame rate and we'll be good.
It was
like
out of
in the
focus.
footage is like not one clip was in focus.
Yeah. So,
Oh no.
So that was the video, but that song ended up like winning a bunch of awards for me and like
Yeah.
getting picked up. We got a ton of media off of it, right?
Dope.
And like
Yeah.
it was so nice to connect with people in need.
Yeah.
Right?
It was a great song, man.
Yeah,
You did a
yeah.
great job with it. And then your guy came in. What was your buddy's name on the chorus? Came in with a black eye to the first
Gregos.
session.
Gregos.
Gregos.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, Gregos.
That
Shout
hook
out
was
Gregos.
catchy
Shout
as
out
fuck, man.
Gregos.
Yeah, man. He had a unique voice. Yeah, he was a good singer too. A little crazy. Just came in black eye. Didn't know what was going on.
He always has a black eye.
Really?
Just so
Yeah.
you know.
Welcome to
He
the
came-
And it was like a band
He
member
came
who
to
gave
the-
him that black eye, right?
Yeah. Q, who's my drummer now.
Oh, I remember Q.
Yeah.
Shout
Q.
out to Q.
Yeah, Q, RC Syndicate. Shout out Q and RC Syndicate. But I didn't know Q at the time. So Gregos came into the session for my voice to shoot the video, and he's got the shiner. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? You got a fucking shiner for this? I'm like, it's United Way. It's this and that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like,
the content wise, specifically for that
so he
song.
does, I think he did the sunglasses or whatever we had to do for the
Yeah,
project, right? But then he's like, oh yeah, this guy Q beat me up last night or punched me out last night. And then fast forward like 2 years later, I'm like, oh, okay, I know why now.
Yeah.
Gregos could get a little wild, right? It's a good guy, great
Talented
singer.
guy, talented
Love the guy.
Yeah.
Great singer, but he lives on the wild side, right?
Yeah.
He's a rock star.
He's a rock star.
He's
He's
meant
like
to be.
he
He's meant
is
to
like
be.
he's always the rock star. He could go to a show. He's the only guy I know that could like go to a concert, and as long as he can get in the building, he can get backstage. He's like gone to like Motley Crue and like all these. He's like, yeah, man,
Every
with the
crew's got a
band
guy
or
like
whatever,
that.
right? Because he's like
Yeah.
a rock star, right?
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
he's super talented too, right?
I remember one guy, I don't even know what we called them, stragglers, and we're always like this 8th or 9th extra guy that would try to come into the show with you. And I don't remember who it was at the time, but we couldn't get him a ticket, we couldn't get him guest list, and eventually he just brought one of his own little cameras. And as we were walking in, he just was like walking backwards, taking pictures and shit, and then he just walked in with us. There was always that
is
crazy motherfucker that was hustling like that. So what kind of stuff are you guys going to be performing at these shows? Like, are they new records? Are they stuff that's out already? Are we talking some verses from 30 years ago? What can people expect?
For my set, it's mostly like I have 3 albums out. So it's like songs that were popular. Whenever I do shows is whatever people reacted to. I just doing a lot of that stuff. So spread across the last 3 albums. My last one was Who Am I to Judge? I released in 2022. And
Yeah.
it's done fairly well for me.
Dope.
There's like a little, not an Oilers anthem, but a song about Edmonton called Great Ones. And that one, I released it during the playoffs, so I think it was nice and timely.
And the Red Flags. That Red Flags. Is on my
Red
record
Flags
too.
is a song about pretendians. There's an
remember
issue
that
right
one.
now, so
Yeah.
that song's done well for me as well. So like the video got a lot of plays, and yeah, people expect that one.
That one was a little prophetic too. Is it?
Yeah, it really. I mean, I included a line where I'm like, "What would Buffy do?"
Yeah, I
like,
was thinking that when I listened to it.
she's the gauge of all things native. Because there's a lot of people out there who like are
And a lot of
committing
people,
fraud.
A lot of people brought that up with you right away too, right? When,
no, like what would Buffy do? Don't do that.
yeah. So Plex kind of flipped it the other way, like just used it the other way. Well, what would Buffy do, right?
Yeah, but it opened. Not that the song opened up a whole lot of conversations about it, but I think it was kind of timely. It was timely, and now that's. It's
You're
a
not
hot
breaking
topic.
out anything old, are you? At the set?
Well, I was thinking the
oldest?
Avenue. Like,
That's really old. Yeah. If we get into that,
But nothing of my
Off a
own.
brainstorm?
necessarily.
You do
Like some of my
brainstorm
stuff
stuff?
isn't appropriate. Like we were 118. We were talking about our life on the streets of.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
even
100%.
this
Yeah,
is
the
an all-age-
context is completely
and this,
different.
and this is an all ages event, right? So it's
Yeah.
an all-age
times have
event.
changed, right? Like we were talking about
Yeah,
how like
we couldn't just drop the Dirty Boulevard right now.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
There's
I would
some-
really have to
some-
go in and like edit some stuff and maybe cut some tracks if I did.
Yeah.
and there's some stuff that's just like there's some references in there that we probably wouldn't make now because
Sure.
of
Yeah,
the way
it's
the
not even fully
society
representative
is almost,
sometimes.
right?
Well,
I
who you
think
are now,
I think
right?
it might be fully representative of who we were at that time.
Yeah, of
which,
course.
Yeah,
which
of
is what
course.
it is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
My buddy Wob Canoe got into politics, man. They were digging up some old lyrics.
Yeah, well,
We got a rapper. We got a native rapper that's a premier of Canada.
Yeah,
though.
man.
Yeah,
How badass
Shout out
is
Wapkin.
that, right? Shout out
And he can
Wapkin,
rap.
right?
Yeah.
And he can
Yeah,
rap.
a good rapper.
Yeah.
A
I
heck
wonder if
of
he
a
can do the
rapper.
weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
If
go.
Josh Glass
Shout
can
out
do the
to JOC. Jing and Jock, baby.
Yo.
That's cool. What about you, man? Mix of stuff?
So I got the Signal from Earth stuff. So like the last kind of 5 years has been with the band, and I write it's kind of like I said, it's kind of a fusion type of stuff. So we're doing some of that. We do break out money. We don't do my voice. I do my voice sometimes for little smaller market shows. There's a lot of changes in my voice. It's not just like a 4/4.
Right.
It's like, you know what I mean? Who made that beat again?
It would have been Freddie B, I think, at the time.
It was dope.
Yeah.
So basically some of the Signal from Earth stuff, and then we do a couple covers. We do a couple old school 80s hip hop covers with the full band, right?
Yeah.
And I have my conga player coming out this time, so I'm super stoked about that he's going to be joining us at K-Days.
Dope.
And then I'm staying on stage because I'm going to DJ for Plex.
You know,
Let's
I actually
go.
tried to find a local
I haven't
DJ.
been
And
on
it's a little harder than
turntables
I thought
in-
it would be.
Dope.
Forever.
Yeah.
10 years.
Why? Well, look no further. Why would you? Why?
Because he was
that
doing
makes
all our
sense.
cuts back in the day.
Yeah.
I just
And he
haven't
knows
done it.
that.
Where's
Yeah.
Dice at?
Yeah.
Dice is actually going to be in BC. He was my first choice.
He
but,
went through a few people. He asked a few people,
Yeah,
and they just couldn't.
Shaolin.
Is Dice still
Shaolin.
here in town though?
I thought I'm
Dice
pretty sure
is,
he lives
yeah.
here.
He is?
Yeah, he works here and lives here. Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out
But
Dice.
he's working.
You
In,
guys
a lot of
Shaolin
people
too?
are working in BC.
Yeah, Sheldon.
DJ
too.
Sheldon?
Yeah.
Shanders
You know who
brother?
else was a
That's
118 DJ?
Yeah.
Someone, here's 118 trivia. Name me another 118 DJ besides Dice and maybe even Roach for a little bit.
Chris Groove.
Oh, two. No, I don't think I have a Groove.
Well, Groove,
two.
Groove did used to.
Sundance.
Oh, Sundance, yeah.
I don't know.
Ryan Small.
Sundance.
But Groove also DJ'd
Rex
for me.
Smallboy's nephew.
Oh, okay.
Ryan Small, Sundance. And DJ Rerun. Who was that again?
DJ Rerun.
Oh, I
That
remember
was
DJ
brief.
Rerun.
That was brief.
He only did like 1-2 shows with us at the Liquid
Yeah.
Lounge, and but he was the DMC winner that year.
Yeah,
So it
that's
was like
why.
our name was big, his name was big, and we're like, oh, DJ Rerun's the DJ for 118. And
Wait, was Rerun the geeky white kid, the
Yeah.
young white kid?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a hell of a scratch.
He went to
DJ
my
too.
high school.
So was Dice though. Dice is Groove too. Groove did some cuts.
Groove
Groove,
and
has
Dice
done
are-
album cuts. Groove has done a lot of Chris Groove has done a lot of album cuts for both of
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
Yeah.
He did used to.
Well, yo, it was crazy to hear you guys rap back to back like that in the booth. Honestly, that was one of the faster sessions. I know, we probably did 3 or 4 takes each of the verse, but the way you guys OGs are OGs. I mean, you're
Yeah.
obviously still making music. It's like riding a bike. You get in there. Obviously, every take gets better and better. But when you're a real MC and you're those lyrics, for me, when I start those first 3 words of the verse, the rest of it just kind of flows. I can't even start a verse in the middle.
I can't either. I can't either.
Like
Yeah,
if
it's
I
all
fuck
connected.
a verse up halfway
I
through,
have to
that's
have the
it.
first
I'm done.
line.
It's all
Otherwise,
connected.
if I have
Yeah.
the first line, I have all 16 of them.
100%,
right? Yeah.
100%. But starting in the middle or like a third of the way through, I cannot do it.
Yeah.
So to hear you guys come in and drop that, and like again having 118 come up in the conversation of OGs and people doing music now with a bunch of cats that have come through the show, it's truly an honor. Plex. Oh, I want to talk about that one thing. Another thing I want to shout you out for, you came in here singing that song, one of the first R&B songs that we wrote at the time. Why that's important to me is because you asked me at one point, we recorded that at the dungeon, and you're like, yo, I want to buy or license that song. I've got somebody who could record it. And I'm like, what do you mean? I can do that? Like I had just no idea that that was a thing, that was a revenue stream of publishing and that you can sell your songs and
music
something
licensing has got me
that I
long.
had
Yeah,
no idea. You just put me up to game that was like, oh, that's really cool. And
Plex has a couple songs that off of his albums that people probably don't know that are Butta wrote and verses that I wrote.
Crazy.
Yeah. So we were.
He's always been Doug is an artist because I remember even earlier on when you were, because our connection was really with you producing, like Keep Speaking and shit. That's when we really clicked. Had a lot of fun together. But then, Used To, like you just mentioned, Used To was a song he had way back in the day. That was,
Used To was
it's
iconic.
a phenomenal fucking song and concept.
2 hours.
And it came
2
together
hours at
like
the
bang,
Access
the best
Network.
ones, right? The
just
best ones just
insane.
clicked.
Did you find that Relic song that we sang on? Did you find it or no?
I didn't find it.
All right. Okay.
Not
Sorry,
been
cut
around
you
so
off.
long.
Keep going.
But I always encouraged him to keep rapping.
Yeah.
And he even has a line about it on one of his songs, I think, where I appreciate he mentions it.
Grateful, but I appreciate you to stick with it.
Yeah. I appreciate
I was like,
because I thought he had he's a witty, intelligent, fucking he has everything you would think that an MC would be.
Yeah.
And he was already deeply involved in producing the tracks.
Yeah.
And then his ambition and my laziness kind of melded.
My laziness
at one point. No, because I was.
We went out to Toronto to do your album.
Yeah, that's how it happened. I moved to Toronto. I was going to be the first artist on New Leaf.
Yeah. We went out to do the
and
album.
I went out there and started playing 1-2 Holden and got home. Yeah, no,
yeah,
I
he
went
got
out
homesick.
That's right. 8 weeks later, he's like, you know what? I'm feeling a little homesick.
They
I'm going to go back to Edmonton
they
for a bit.
literally left. Him and his now wife were so sweet. They left me their place, their vehicle.
But if you didn't go home, I wouldn't have made Brainstorm.
And things happen that way.
Kind of solidified
and then part of his projects too were some things that were amazing songs that because of my procrastination may never have been heard before. And dude, I got
if I made a beat and you rapped on it, I was like, we can't waste this. Man.
Yeah, and then he'd be like, yo, and the same thing. He'd call me up Christmas time when he knows I'm broken. I got shopping to do. Hey, let me buy a couple. And so I was able to do that. And then that allows me to now go on the road with him or perform with him from time to time, which is a great opportunity.
I think a lot of artists don't really think about sound exchange.
No,
sound exchange has been it's been great for us because there's an Indigenous station on Sirius XM 165 and sound exchange like does all the tracking of it. So we've been getting some pretty good paychecks, and because it's subscription based and because every vehicle that you lease nowadays comes with Sirius XM, I think it's boosted up the pay because I went from getting, at one point I get like $200 a year. And then it went up to sometimes 20 grand and like,
you getting spins. Like
you're getting big ones.
You have a few songs that did like really, really, really well in the last like few years. But one of my biggest, I can't say regrets, but things that I wish I could change. Is the fact that they moved to the other side of the country because
what
me and
happened
Doug
there?
and all of us, like we've always, it was a writing thing too, right? Like we could just come up with like 2 songs a night, you know what I mean? And not just hip hop, like, you know what I mean? But I even worked on some blues stuff.
Yeah, because I
would make a beat and I'd come back the next day and him and Lace had already recorded a song over it.
Yeah.
So I like that chemistry too.
Yeah.
We didn't even have to be in the same room to make something,
Well, that's one of the things I think that works about what you guys did is you each had your own flavor. Nobody did the same thing.
Do you know how I met Lace for the first time? Because Lace went to Shep. I didn't know Lace. I was about 18 at high school, and who comes over? Alan Bishop comes over to my mom's house, and he's like, "Oh, I got to introduce you to this guy. He sings."
I don't think that's are you sure that's the story you remember?
That was the first time I met Lace in my mom's living room, and then Lace just like dropped like some Boys to Men shit or something right in my mom's living room. That's the first time
I met Lace was GQ, Dwight Dudiak. So
that's what I was gonna say. That's how I met Lace.
I was in elementary school with Dwight Dudiak, so I knew him
Dwight's
since grade 2.
Dwight's in Toronto now, right? Do you know?
No, he's in Vancouver.
Oh, is he in Vancouver?
He's a mortgage broker.
I think that was just
But he
slightly
just recorded
after.
an album with Omar Luna and he used to work with Famous. I don't know if
dope. Yeah.
So yeah,
He can
finished
still
working on a
sing?
new album. Oh, he can sing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he brought Andrew, and I was like, as soon as I saw Andrew, I was like, and I heard him sing, I was like, "You native?" I was like, "Yeah, man. He's here, take my number." And that's how it clicked for me.
Yeah.
So,
He had one of the dopest voices in that group.
And he was
Lace.
instantly on track. So he was 118 right as soon as we knew he was like
was
down
so
with
dope.
us, right?
And he was so dope.
You and I were like rock stars when we did the Pan American Games in Winnipeg.
Oh yeah, you guys were pretty
showed
crazy
up,
with that.
no shirts on, just came running, hung over.
There's video footage of it. I just
made
released
it
that
on
one
stage
video
right as the set was starting. Like it was
that naughty video that I posted, like that reel that I posted. That was that show in '99, and I was waiting for them, and all of a sudden they came on like 5 minutes to show, and we were doing a show with a bunch of breakdancers for the Pan Am Games, and these guys come in just sweating because they ran so long to get to the stage.
Yeah, Winnipeg was a dangerous city for us.
It's a dangerous city for anybody, really.
It's an ugly city, man. I was just there shooting. I didn't really.
I'm not gonna say it's ugly because I got lots of friends in Winnipeg.
I
I had a lot of good years in Winnipeg.
I love Winnipeg, but I love Edmonton. But,
it's scarier than Edmonton, though.
But there's
100%.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Looking at the clock, I'm thinking there's some areas you just don't want to get caught after 11 p.m.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's a universal thing too because I live more in central Toronto, and it's a larger city, but there's also I haven't been here I guess in 5 years back to Edmonton, and coming back now I'm in the neighborhood. My mom lives in Clairview. I'm staying with my mother, and it's a different.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a.
Well, things have changed. It's like.
Well, I'm just saying, I think it's universal. Like things have kind of gone downhill everywhere.
Oh, in the country, in the world, right?
Yeah. I think it's just kind of a
high homelessness.
High.
Yeah.
It was so much better back in my
118 was always rough back in the days.
Before I left.
It's a different rough now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a lot of the drug addiction that takes people over, and
100%.
And, you know,
the drugs are different.
Yeah.
And that's, I
The
guess
drugs
that's
are scary. The drugs are different.
Yeah.
They just,
more
if I didn't
readily
leave when I
available,
did-
harder, scarier.
cheaper.
If I didn't leave
Yeah.
when I did, I'd probably be just a statistic here as well.
Yeah.
It's true.
I was,
that saved his life.
Yeah, let's not forget
Yeah.
that part of this guy's
Yeah,
story.
that-
So was that a
saved his
big
life.
part of the dissolution of the group, or like
absolutely.
what happened? Yeah.
Well, you know, Big Bill went to jail. You know, Drew was battling some mental health issues. You had kids.
I
young.
started popping out kids. Yeah.
And then me,
Well,
it was
not
the drug
physically,
addiction.
but-
So
Yeah.
I was
And I was
homeless
lazy.
for a good period of that.
he was
time.
still
I was
lazy.
lazy.
He was just lazy.
I was watching TV.
But I was just hanging out, smoking weed, drinking coffee at his mom's house.
writing songs I'm never gonna release.
Yeah.
It's fucking genius.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. There's so much talent and music out there that the world will never hear. You know
And
what
yeah,
I mean?
that's
I got a
interesting.
hard
Yeah.
drive full of it.
Yeah.
I honestly was looking at it about a month or two ago when I just started going through beats with this guy Jock, who's Tanner Lane's cousin. He's an old school dude who wanted some beats, and I'm like, I got beats. Plex has got like 1,000 beats that he's never released, and
Yeah.
like songs like I said, I got a song with back in the days that I did with Kripal, one with Trips, one with Comrade, one with, you know what I mean, like that just shit that never got released, right? Just because not everything comes to the light of day. You probably have how many unreleased tracks in your hard drive?
I slowly add them to projects. If I
you?
make like 5 songs I really like that are current, I'll kind of pull out and listen to a few songs that we
try to
did.
bring 'em back?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got 2
Yeah.
on this next album that I probably recorded 5 years ago.
Which
I
is
have one I did
another-
with Barrington that I've been like sitting on for like 6-7 years. That is like a really cool piano vibe, of course,
Simpson?
with Barrington, right?
Yeah,
yeah. About life on the road and coming back home, and it's kind of really hard. Some of my better stuff has always been softer, like more popular stuff has always
Yeah.
been a little on the softer side, with the My Voice, with the Mama song,
Yeah.
which Plex produced and Nathan was on too, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what those are? Those are stories. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Those are they're easy to write. They flow out,
And they relate to
They're-
people,
they're-
too.
They relate to people
Yeah.
because they're real. Like they're real shit that you went through. They're authentic, and that's the shit that resonates. I find, anyways, when you really got to work hard at a song, and it's like it's not coming together. It never feels right the way like a 5-minute song just fucking drops.
We
down.
still play Mama's song live, so we do that every show, and it's still one of the most.
It's a
People
moment.
cry. Yeah, it's a moment. People
Yeah,
cry on
for
it.
sure.
Like
That's what makes
Ian
it-
Rossiter, the guys in my band, have this really cool chemistry with the pedal steel and the mandolin with it, right?
That's
so it's really
sick.
pretty, right? Yeah.
I'll even tell you that I've tried to write to this beat that we just rocked on, and it's always like this shit talking type of vibe. And I've tried 4 or 5 times, and then when we started talking about it, I sent it to you. You liked it. I'm like, okay. I was so hyped to get you guys here. I'm like, and Butta's gonna be here too.
I was late to that group
I was
chat by a couple days, and then
Yeah,
when I
you
heard
were
it-
late. We went back and forth a little bit already. Honestly, by the next time we talked, I wrote that verse in like 15 minutes, and it was the one. I was like, shit, I'm really happy with the way that it came out. And it's just because like I felt inspired, you know, I felt excited that you guys were going to be here, and you guys destroyed it, man. I appreciate it. It's
an honor, man.
Yeah.
It's the whistle too. It was the whistle for me.
From the OGs, what is the what advice would you bestow upon all of these billions of people who have music at their fingertips now? What advice would you give them?
Don't smoke meth.
That's a good one.
Firstly, don't do hard drugs.
Yeah.
First off, stay off of drugs. I would say work hard. People that are not going to work hard and work their ass off every day. Like when I first dropped Mighty Mouth for those 4 years that like eventually seen some success, I worked my ass off. I was always in front of a computer. You usually spend more time in front of a computer than you do behind a pen, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And I'd say be able to take rejection, because like that's a huge thing where you're not for everybody, but people are going to dig it. If you got decent music, someone's going to dig it. It's just not going to be for everybody.
Also, be a fan of yourself and be authentic. I think it's the old school mentality that we have, of course, as MCs, that it's like, I'm the baddest motherfucker around, and
Right.
you
Part of
should
MCing.
absolutely believe that.
You got to believe that.
That's
but
part of
also,
MCing,
but also
right?
to
Yeah.
try and offer something new, because
Yeah.
especially because anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And even a lesson can be taken from somebody like me who hasn't nearly accomplished to release as much of those tracks as I should have done. It's still a pleasure to create something that you're proud of.
Yeah.
And now, like years later, I can look back and be like, oh shit, 20-year-old Butta was he was onto something here.
pretty dope.
But yeah, especially in the hip hop realm, I I know there's a lot of fusion with R&B lately and things like that.
You were always good at that though too.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying for the modern climate, and I enjoyed the melodies. You know what I mean? And that's also I kind of slid in as like the 118 Nate Dogg role, which I love.
Before I started
you were
singing,
you
you were the
for
one
that.
who used to kind of have that
I
singing
always had a little
style.
melody.
But we need a hook.
Yeah.
But we need a hook.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
Then, and I'm like, a hook, cool. That'll take me an afternoon, as opposed to 3 verses and a hook and 6 songs. But no, I think I tell young rappers and stay on top of it. Stay on top of your game and do it organically and live, especially in hip hop.
Yeah.
Not over the track, right?
No, I mean, like,
I hate that.
Get together with some friends, Blaze,
100%.
get a cipher
So
together.
you have people to call you out when it's
100%.
not good.
Yeah,
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 100%.
yeah. Oh,
And let me
with that
just
being
make
said-
a point here to the fucking camera. Everybody who comes on this show, these guys included, they're dropping their verses front to back. So we're not coming in studio rappers punching in like these guys are coming in, and when they screw up one word in the middle of the verse, they want to do it again because we're not happy with that shit, you know? And that's a different level of artist and musicianship when you're able to do that, because as a producer, I worked with a lot of people coming to the studio that were punching like 2 bars at a time.
Yeah, and they get used to it. It's just
Yeah,
the
and
way
it's
they
like you
do it.
fall
lazy.
back
Yeah,
on that. I'm
yeah,
like,
they
how
do
can
it.
you can't, if you can't perform this right now, why are you gonna think, what makes you think you can rock this on stage? You know what I mean? So
Sometimes you write something that's a little bit of what they call a dovetail too, right?
Right.
Where like that word's overlapping and you
Yeah.
do it in the
Naughty was
studio.
like that for
No,
me.
yeah.
intentional,
The
sure.
way it should be was like that for me
Yeah.
too. I
Yeah.
had to punch it. I had no choice.
Yeah.
But-
of course, so when you're making a studio record, there's moments when that's warranted.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is like what you just
Rapping.
heard
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
on behind the sound was real rap, front to back, one fucking take, all the way through. Real MCs, 118 back in the building, you know, and I think there's something to be said about that. To your
Well,
point.
I think too, you mentioned earlier, and you brought up a word that I haven't heard in forever, but Lush, the club in Edmonton back in the day. Lush was the spot where like me and Teak and all them used to go.
Yeah.
And it was
Rebar.
like, it
Rebar
was
was
like
hopping.
college
Rebar
girls.
too.
No,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
this
yeah.
was a weird melding. It was like college girls.
It was
and,
after
like,
Rebar.
They played
Yeah.
Common and shit, and it
Yeah.
was like a hipster kind of a crowd, but then there was a whole lot of freestyle battling.
Yeah.
And that's when I really got in my rhythm and had a great little time battling people and have people come up to me, hey, I saw you last week and blah, blah, blah. That kind of organic thing is kind of what I'm talking about as well. Like you don't have to go out and freestyle battle people randomly at the bus stop, but leave the house. You know?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
in general for young people.
Who did you ever?
leave the fucking house.
You know who's my worst battle I ever lost to? Not that he's a whack rapper. I'm not saying this, but ID. You know Justin Crooks and ID from Locution Revolution.
No, I don't know.
I was, and I on any other given day I could have taken ID, but I came into Hip Hop in the Park.
Yeah.
No, Hip Hop for
Hip Hop for
Hunger.
Hunger?
Hip Hop for Hunger at Starlight Room.
Yeah.
And I was there to party.
Yeah.
I wasn't there to MC. I wasn't there to battle. And
Yeah.
I was like 3 sheets to the wind already.
Yeah.
And Arlo was like, oh, you want to battle ID? I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll battle ID,
no.
right? I go up there and fucking got even more drunk and ID shit. The ID tore me up.
There's a
So I
weird,
quit drinking. Just joking.
There's something to be said for the freestyling, because in the last couple of years I've gotten into a lot of bebop, jazz, and improvisation.
Improvisation.
And yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And freestyling is that thing where
a
it's
different
weird.
muscle.
If you overthink it, you remember like if you overthink it, then it doesn't come. But if you
Right.
just like, you're almost
Flow.
a vessel for something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a magical experience.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like
when
the
you're
King of the Dog
improvising.
shit.
It's a
Yeah,
different muscle.
because it's
That's-
all-
I like
Yeah.
King of the
It's some of it's good, but
No,
I like
it's
freestyle.
to me
Because
is
it's a cappella?
stand-up
No,
comedy
because
rap.
it's written.
also-
because it's pre-written.
Oh,
I
right,
like
right,
straight
right.
off the
Yeah,
dome.
so you
And
like
it's a cappella though.
And then
There's
that's another thing too.
That's
There's not
dope.
even a
The
beat.
acapella
No,
is-
I
no,
got
no,
nothing
no,
bad to say
but-
about King of the Dog.
Fair enough, but they're not
I
even
do
really
like- I
rocking
do
to a
like that
beat.
stuff.
Like they're
Yeah.
just, I get it. They're like, blah 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 blah. But
Sharon, like these guys. Like,
Oh, there's
these guys
killer
are
rappers in there.
amazing.
There's like there's some insane MCs
the
in there.
format. It's just
Pat
a
Stay,
format.
Like these guys
Yeah.
are entertaining to me. Like I do
Yeah,
love
it's
watching
a
I get
different,
that.
and it changed the game. I remember when King of the Dog came out, I was like, wow, this is really cool. This
It
is
was
like,
interesting, yeah.
a bunch of mostly Toronto rappers at
Yeah.
the time. And then everybody started flocking there.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's
Edmonton,
dope that-
Edmonton rappers, all the battlers. That's where to go to battle.
It's
right?
dope that you can hear the verses. You know, I like that it's a
Yeah.
cappella that way. You can actually make it out. Well, something after when you battled Jay Concept in our group in Dark Sun Tribe at Lush one
Oh,
time.
shit.
You were both pretty drunk. It was like end of the night.
And this is what I love about Lush too. Is I walk out drunk and it was almost like a fist fight, a version of a fist fight.
Yeah,
So you just walk out
yeah.
And push you, be like,
and it
"All
got
right."
intense
And
too.
then people-
It got intense
it was a
between
lot.
you and Jay, and like you were like, I thought maybe I didn't even really know you yet. I interacted with you the least actually out of everybody in 118. But I always liked your swagger, and I never admitted at the time. You destroyed Jay that time. He was a good rapper. He was he had a good flow to him, but he mumbled a lot, and I think he was drunk too. So it was like you didn't really know what he was saying. But it was a good it was good delivery. But it's like, oh shit, what did he say though? You know, and that's why I like King of the Dot stuff. It's like that
it's a little more
acapella
coherent.
shit.
Yeah,
You know,
hear it. It's clear.
You hear it. It's
Also,
clear.
bad
To me, I just
freestyle
like the
battle can be a
dome. I just
bad
like the top of the dome.
freestyle.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
As an advocate of that, I will say, admittedly, that sometimes you got some guy bat cat rat, and it's like, okay, bro, like you guys
like
are just
Kripal,
You're
like
rhyming
Kripal.
you're rhyming for the
Touch.
sake of rhyming.
Yeah.
Like Kripal and Touch, like
Yeah.
two of the best battle
MCs
rappers.
out of this.
Tanner
ever.
Lane.
It's two of the
Tanner
two-
Lane.
Champion Sage,
probably
shout
two
out
of the
Spade.
best.
I was about to say
like,
Spade was
MCs
the
in
greatest
city.
because
Yeah,
I came up
two
with
of the best
freestyle
MCs
and-
ever. Like
His
top two.
freestyling
That's
was
top two
better
for
than
me.
his writtens.
Yeah,
And honestly,
that's Spade was a
No,
weird guy.
Tanner on track was not as good as what you heard him do.
No, and that's my
100%.
point. That's my
100%.
point. He was
Yeah.
a
He
had
freestyle
some fire
fucking
freestyle.
but
where
that's
he
what
could-
I'm saying too. It's
Monster.
like
No, we
it's a
kept
different
his,
muscle.
We kept his freestyles for songs. Like
Yeah,
some of
he
the
would just
songs
come in
that he
and
was on were freestyle.
he would never ever write.
Yeah.
he would just come in and drop a freestyle.
Then he'd have to
and-
remember
and
it
then-
from hearing the track.
Yeah,
To
and
do
he
it
could never
live,
do
yeah.
it again the same
Yeah.
way. Like
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
one of those guys
Yeah.
that off the top was just so fire.
Yeah.
You know, there's many examples of like that. Like Jin, how many freestyle competitions in a row did he win? His studio record was trash, right? Like he came and didn't go anywhere when he got signed to
Tanner
Rough
never
Riders.
really put out music. Like
Yeah.
after like, you know, he was on a couple 118 tracks, but I don't think he's
Yeah.
always done beats and
Yeah, he was,
rapping.
when I moved up to Toronto, he was still making beats and sending me some beats.
Yeah, it's still
He had
rapping.
he
Same
had
with
a-
Sean McKay.
Tanner,
Sean-
I'm still trying to get you here, man. Shout out to Tanner Lane.
Sean McKay, you know DVL, Sean McKay from Task Force, the white dude from Task Force.
Like this is TMD days.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
this is
TMD
so
and
this
Task
is there
Force were
like
the
just
two
before
guys.
us TMD days, right?
Yeah.
But Sean McKay was always doing stuff, and ever since then he's still been doing. I still talk to Sean McKay,
Yeah.
and him and Dice still get together and do beats and stuff like that. But he
Those
just
were our-
doesn't
those
doesn't
were
want
our
to put out
inspirations.
music. He
Yeah.
does it for the love
Maximum
to it. He does it for the
Definitive,
love of
Yeah,
it.
of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
Clickety click.
But
Yeah,
it was,
Dave
it was a
Cost,
small
Justin,
community,
Jerome.
man.
Yeah.
It was a small community in that time. There were a few people that were doing it that had access to studios, that had networks. And if somebody heard you could sing, hey, let me connect you with Rellik. You got to go sing a rap for Rellik.
I remember-
take Dark Sun. We had to go, somebody connected us with Sleepy. Oh, you got to go sing
Sleep,
for
yeah.
Sleepy.
Shout out
Go,
Sleep.
we
Shout
were
out
in his
Sleep.
fucking, in his apartment at the Heist building or whatever, right off Jasper Ave there where it turned on to 82nd
Well, he
Street.
came back after he did the Cypher video. Remember? He
Yeah.
was
Well,
He
Sound
was.
was
They
good.
were
video.
always older than us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they were like the generation
Yeah, so there
before,
was
and they were
EDOT.
always a little bit
EDOT
ahead
was,
of us.
EDOT was one of them.
EDOT,
Yeah.
Point
E-Dot
Blank,
is so
Kada,
fire.
Yeah. Well, he
Point
still
Blank,
is. He
Andre
still is.
Hamilton,
Still, yeah,
Kada.
yeah.
182. They'll shout out 182, all of as a whole, right?
Right.
And those 182 guys, we kind of always looked up to them, and we started doing shows when we were young with them.
Yeah.
At like Dinwoody Lounge. We were still just coming out of
Victory Lounge.
Yeah, Mercury
Yeah.
Lounge. We were like 18, 19. They were in their 20s. But I still remember me and Tanner Spade doing Rellik and Spade at the Sidetrack Cafe.
Yeah.
And
We saved that.
blowing the joint up.
Yeah.
We
Sidetrack.
would, and Kada and Errol and all those guys were like, oh shit, who are these guys?
Let's
right?
go.
So ever since then, like
You
Doug's-
guys actually had really good chemistry.
yeah. We were talking about a couple of years ago. We were like, we should just do a track, man. Rellik
Yeah.
and Spade track.
Well, for
right?
us,
Like,
I think it was
That'd be
because there were a lot more native shows and they paid.
Yeah.
And when they were asking for advice, one of the things I want to say was to know your worth. I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we were doing a lot of free shows.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, even
Well,
though
you got it at the beginning.
You gotta do
in the
those,
beginning.
yeah.
Pay your
But once
dues.
we kind of became established, you know,
Yeah.
we weren't demanding money.
Sure.
And I think for me, it's like even how I said, I kind of set the bar high. So if people really want me, they'll pay that amount, and that's why I don't do a whole lot of shows. But I'm usually satisfied with you know, if
with
I
the
get
ones
paid.
you do.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm out here
So-
playing shows for chicken and beer still. Just joking. I'm just joking.
I'd just say shout out Doug for getting paid for the shows.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dart
But know
Malone
your worth,
too.
but
Dart
know your-
was
but
another
know your
guy that
worth.
had to show me.
Absolutely know your worth.
He'd take over my system from Toronto, and he'd show me what the fuck was going on with Cubase. But anytime I had a problem, I couldn't look it up on YouTube. I called you or Justin. And like, if you didn't have those guys to like mentor you and show you the
Corey,
way,
because
man.
Corey
my
was
guy,
the
too.
the first the Cubase guru, right? That's where we learned. I still, if I have issues with Cubase of some sort, it's Corey that I.
You know,
I
Darp's
go
one
to.
of the most slept on like rappers, singers.
Darp?
I've ever-
So
yeah,
talented.
Darp, yeah.
big
Bro,
time.
you know how many hits. He came over to visit with my brother and he played on our fucking organ that he would just drop on the spot
And-
that were smashes. That
And even
he's
before
just so
TMD, like those
talented.
guys were part of the Beat
Well,
Nation.
he
They
was
were
in
like, they were
Hero-
always so good.
Yeah.
Well, he was in Hero with EDOT, and they put out that album.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
As a
he
killer
produced all
project.
the-
Killer. That whole project, yo.
He produced all the beats,
Killer.
and EDOT and him rap and sang over it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was such. Well, I think you were the one who played it for me. You gave
I
me
still
like a
listen to
sneak
it. I
peek
still
of
listen
it,
to it.
and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, this
Trust.
is an insane
And
project."
then now the next generation of EDOT, you got K Riz,
Yeah,
you
his
know,
nephew, isn't
his
it?
nephew,
yeah,
yeah.
just
and he's
like
sick. He's lighting it up.
sick.
He's
He's
sick
fire.
too. Yeah,
Sick, perfect flavor of that R&B with the hip hop mix. Such a dope. Like obviously the talent runs in that family.
Yeah, the first track
Yeah.
I heard him on was on Adriza's song. He just sang the chorus.
Yeah.
And yeah, I heard him rap before that, but first time I heard him sing was on Adriza's song.
Yeah, yeah.
he came
Well,
out to do a
shit,
couple
man.
shows with you too, right? Darp, yeah.
Shout
no,
out
Darp,
to
Darp,
118, baby. Listen, I appreciate you guys so much. I just want to wrap this up, and again, like 118 always comes up in the conversation. Crazy that it's a coincidence to have you here in town, United right now. And when I saw that was happening, I'm like, fuck, yo, I had to like, let's
You put in the work to make it happen,
Bill,
man.
now's the time.
Yeah, yeah,
let's
yeah.
make this happen.
I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did. It was a lot of fun. It was
Yeah,
a
it was a
lot of
good
fun.
time.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you were here, man. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Good luck at the show. I know you're probably seeing this after the show has already happened.
The show was fucking off the
Oh my
hook.
God,
Off the
it was
hook,
amazing.
baby. Oh, the
It was
show
an
was
amazing show, eh?
hype.
It was nice, eh?
The show
Yeah,
was
beautiful.
hype. Listen, you guys murked the booth like only 118 could. And it's truly a pleasure and an honor to have you here.
Appreciate it, bro.
Respect.
Thank you.
Rich.
Thank you. Let's go, baby.